Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about translations. A translation is a type of transformation. A translation is going to be a slide where a shape is either going to move horizontally, so from left to right, or it's going to move vertically, where it's going to go up or it's going to go down. It can also do a combination of both. It can move both to the right and then move down. Something important to remember is that in a translation, the shape always must remain the same size. It's not allowed to get bigger or smaller, so it always has to stay the same, and it must always look the same. If this is long here, I can't translate it and have it looking tall like this. That means it either rotated or reflected. So you need to make sure when they ask you which one could be a translation of a shape, it's only allowed to move up, down, side, side, or a combination of both, and it's not allowed to rotate. If it looks like this, it has to stay looking like this. It's not allowed to turn. So when you're working with translations, the first thing I recommend is you always want to take whatever graph they give you and draw it on a sheet of graph paper. That's super important. We need to be able to draw on it so that if it gives us a rule, I can actually physically draw on the paper and move the shape. It's going to be really hard to do this in your head. So when we're translating, the most basic kind of translation, they're going to give us a rule in words. And your guys' program, instead of saying left and right or up and down, they may say horizontally, if I can spell it, and vertically. So they may use those words, so keep that in mind. So when we translate a shape, every single point here has to translate or move the same amount of units. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start at point D here, and I look at my rule and it tells me to move 5 units to the left, so it's going 5. So it's going to go 5 that way, and then it's also going to go 5 up. So I'm going to start at D and I'm just going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 5 to the left, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's my new shape, that's D. And remember, we use the dash after the letter to signify that this is the image and this is the pre-image. Now I'm going to do it again. I'll move E. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's my E with the dash. And now I can connect them. And notice if these are 2 units apart, in the image it still has to be 2 units apart. Now that I have those as a reference, I don't have to actually count the rest. I know that C is 1 to the right, so I just move 1 to the right and I'll put my C prime. And then I know B is 3 down, so we'll just go down 3, put the B, and there's the answer. So if our original shape was B, C, D, E, and order doesn't matter, we just normally do alphabetically, that means the new shape is going to be B prime, C prime, D prime, E prime. And we say this little dash is either a prime or a dash. So if you see a question that says that angle C has translated 5 units left and 5 units up, and it wants to know what its new name is, the new name is just C prime. We can't change a C to a D. They have to stay the same. So that's the first thing you need to be able to do, is just slide things left or right, up and down. Now the next thing that they're going to do, instead of giving you words, they're going to use something called arrow notation. And arrow notation just takes the words and makes it a little bit easier with symbols. But it's not easier until you actually learn what the symbol means. So when we are moving, if we go back to here, when I changed this horizontally, as this shape moved this way, notice how it stays in this straight line? That means the X values, here it was a 3, then it changed to a 2, 1, 0, -1, 2. that whole time the x values changed, but the y stayed the same here at 2. So whenever we move left or right, that's the x values changing. And then the y values finally changed once it moved up. So what that means in our arrow notation is a horizontal change is going to represent a change in the x's, and a vertical change is going to represent a change in the y's. And what we use is this notation here. This tells us that I have some coordinate, an x and a y, and it moves, and it's going to tell us the x is either going to add or subtract by some number, and the y is either going to add or subtract by some number. And to figure out if it's an add or a subtract, here's our keys down here. If it says x plus a number, that means the whole shape is going to move right that number of units. So the number of units. If it says x minus, that means it's going to move to the left that many units. Same thing with the y. Y plus means now it's going to move up, and y minus means that it's going to move down. So if we take the rule on the first page, which was 5 left and 5 up, this means that I had an x and a y coordinate. And since it moved to the left, I look here on my key, and that means I'm going to use x minus 5. And then it said 5 up, so here's where I see up. That's my y, so that's y plus 5. So when I see this, now I know this means left and up. So let's go practice with some more translations. Remember, it's really important for you to draw these on a paper so you can draw on them. So now this problem tells you to write a rule to describe the transformation. And we're going to go ahead and write it using words and using the rule. And if you need to pause this to copy the shape down on your picture, go for it. So first thing we have to identify which one is the pre-image and which one is the image, because that's going to control, did the shape move up or did it move down? So remember, the image is the one that has the dashes. So the image is down here at S dash, T dash, U dash, V dash. So that's this one. So that means the pre-image was S, T, U, V. So that means the shape started here and it translated down and over. So what we're going to do is we're just going to choose a point. So I'm going to choose the furthest one out here. And I'm just going to make a line showing up and down and side to side. I'm going to connect my points. And now I'm going to count. I can see it goes down. 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 1. And if I check it one more time in a translation, all of them should be the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 1. So in words, this tells me that it moved left 1 and down 4. And order down here doesn't really matter. So now if I'm going to write it in coordinate notation, we do our x, y, just because all coordinates are x, y. We know there's an x. We know there's a y. Now it says left 1. So if we need to, we can go back to this chart. Hopefully you've copied it down. So left again means minus. So minus 1. And now down is also a minus, minus 4. So now we've written our rule in both words and in the rule or the arrow notation. Let's try 3 more problems. In this first problem, they give you the shape, and now we just want to practice translating it again. So in this one, it says 2 units down. This one's unique because it's not moving to the left or the right. So if I were to write this in arrow notation, down is the y. So that means it's y minus 2. But since it doesn't say anything about the x's, that means my x's are actually going to stay the same. So it doesn't need a plus or a minus. So this tells me that my shape is just going to move up or down. So if I look, it says 2 units down. So I'm going to go to the bottom since that's the closest to down. There's 1, 2. And let me grab another color so it stands out. So that's J prime. 1, 2. Put our dot, there's G prime. And since these are slanted, they're kind of hard to see and count. So we'll just go down 2, down 2. So there's I prime and H prime. And then we can connect the dots. And there's our new shape. Over here, we have a rule. It's an arrow notation. And if I look, it says x minus 3. So that minus means it's going to move left 3. And then the y, it doesn't have any plus or minus. So that means the y stays the same. So all it's going to do is move left 3. There's no up or down. So this one's much easier. So we just go left 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Put in my new dots. And our new name, U dash, T dash, V dash, and we have translated it. So let's do one more example in this lesson. One more in arrow notation because that's the hardest. Now if I look, the x is by itself, so it's going to stay the same. And now it says y plus 2, so that means it's going to go up 2. So it just goes up 2, up 2, up 2. And now, grabbing my second color, we connect the dots. And there's our new shape. So remember, the key to this is use this key, and let me clean it up so you can see it again. This is the key to follow, and you really need to make sure you're drawing each shape as you go. Thanks for watching.